Mr. Kaardal, if you would step forward and want to go with your presentation.
My name is Erick Kaardal. I'm an attorney in Wisconsin and in Minnesota, and I'm here to make a presentation. I'm a Thomas More Society Special Counsel, and I'm going to talk about 10 subject areas of election official legal violations of the 2020 election. I'm an attorney who has made a career suing the government, so I admit to that kind of narrow-mindedness. I'm narrow-minded in the sense I focused on one thing in my career, and that is to sue governments on behalf of ordinary people and businesses. And that's a very narrow thing, but it's quite useful when public officials violate the law, because there should be an attorney to represent ordinary people when they suffer or are injured by officials violating the law. With respect to this situation, it's useful to stop and think about Mr. Gableman's report and think about what's been going on with respect to government investigations. So in the first instance, you had the Legislative Audit Bureau report, October 2021. I've read that report. It's a very significant report, and it details a lot of Wisconsin Election Commission insufficiencies, neglect to details. It's something that everyone should be aware of when approaching election official illegalities in Wisconsin. The Racine County Sheriff report, I've also read that. That was the report that said that Wisconsin Election Commission members, 5 of the 6, violated state law by not sending the special voting deputies, 1 Democrat, 1 Republican, to the nursing homes during the absentee ballot voting period. The Waukesha County Circuit Court opinion, January 22, held that WEC violated the law by allowing these drop boxes, by putting out the memo regarding these absentee ballot drop boxes. I didn't mention here, but I should, that there was also the indefinitely confined decision that came out during the election or after the election. That's also another WEC memo that gave advice really in favor of illegalities. And here we heard the Office of Special Counsel, the March 2022 report. And here we have, WEC and municipal clerk violations of the law. And Wisconsin really needs to work on investigating government. And it even appears that it's difficult for the government to investigate the government. So imagine Mr. Gableman is doing an investigation of the government. I've been trying to do an investigation of the government and how difficult it is to investigate the government in Wisconsin. So here narrow-minded, we're just focusing on election integrity. But my experience has been, and I've been doing election lawsuits since the 1990s, 2 U.S. Supreme Court victories, 1 in 2002, 1 in 2018, over approximately 300 appeals, appellate court decisions and arguments. So I have a lot of experience in suing the government. My experience here is so interesting because basically from, let's say 1998 to 2020, I probably did 50 election law related lawsuits. And I always thought these election officials, they're violating the law here and they're violating the law there and the state statute violates the law here. But it wasn't until Thomas More Society hired me to go to Washington, D.C. With the Amistad Project at post-election 2020 that I began to see, well, wait a minute. The same violations that are occurring in Minnesota are occurring in Wisconsin, are occurring in Michigan, are occurring in Pennsylvania, are occurring in Georgia, and are occurring in Arizona. Now, why would it be that state election officials in different states would be making the same violations of election law? And then that opened my mind to the fact that CEIR, Erick, CTCL, National Voter Home Institute, that they're influencing election officials to violate the law the same way. And then after the post-election litigation was done, I looked at Wisconsin's laws and I saw that there was a path. There's a path, of course, politically and legislatively, but there's also a path with respect to litigation. So this requires a little bit of detail, but it's relevant to some of the questions that were asked here. So Wisconsin's post-election certification process and post-election contest process are focused on a candidate filing a petition for a recount of the ballots. Other states allow election contests based on election official illegalities or irregularities, casting doubt on a close election result. Georgia and Arizona are examples. So in Wisconsin, the choice, rightly or wrongly, has been made that these certifications occur basically irregardless of election official illegalities that don't affect recounting the ballots. So you can change that law if you want. I'm not here to recommend law changes. I'm just saying that's the system we have. So then you go to the next question. Well, how do you deal with election official illegalities in Wisconsin? And this is where the system is pretty fantastic. And so the system here is that the state of Wisconsin has waived sovereign immunity, so a voter can sue their election official for violating election law. So that is just an extraordinary thing. Imagine your predecessor legislature saying, we could waive sovereign immunity so everyone could sue the government for every violation of the law, but rather they were narrow-minded, like I've talked about, and they said elections are so important that we're going to waive sovereign immunity in this area so any voter, like Mr. Stone, any voter can sue an election official for violating election law. So when we go through these 10 subject areas, I just want to point out that each of these subject areas, there's a process to file an administrative complaint with WEC, subject to circuit court, court of appeal, and Supreme Court review. So it's a beautiful thing because the legislature is not alone. You are not alone in correcting these election official illegalities because you've created a procedure where these lawsuits can be brought and the courts can help you. The courts can correct the Wisconsin Election Commission, correct the election official illegalities. Does it affect the past election? No, this is about future elections, but that's important because we need to restore confidence in the election system. And so let's talk about the first topic. Wisconsin election officials' use of absentee ballot drop boxes violated Wisconsin law. Now it's very important when we start to remember the cities of Milwaukee, Madison, Green Bay, Racine, and Kenosha, Center for Tech, Center for Tech, and Civic Life paid absentee ballot drop boxes. So $216,000 of CTCL, private money, out-of-state money, from California, wherever, through Cook County, came into these 5 cities to purchase those absentee ballot drop boxes. Now, the Waukesha County Circuit Court has held them to be legally unauthorized. I get criticized for that word. People like illegal. But really, when you read the decision, I think it's a better phrase, legally unauthorized. Review is pending in the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Meanwhile, the April primary will be without drop boxes. The Wisconsin Election Commission has adopted no rule in favor of absentee ballot drop boxes, and so there we are. So that's important to understand that these drop boxes were all over Wisconsin, and the citizens, the voters, can sue their cities in WEC and get an administrative correction so absentee drop boxes aren't used. And that's the method that you've created. So you're doing what you're doing in the legislature, and the Thomas More Society and I will be representing these citizens across the state of Wisconsin, pointing out that WEC and your municipal clerks violated the law with absentee ballot drop boxes. Now, maybe the Supreme Court comes out a different way. We'll see. Center for Tech and Civic Life's Safe Voting Plan for Wisconsin 5 cities is election bribery. There you have the statute, Wisconsin Statute Section 12.11 on election bribery. There are 3 elements: anything of value received by a person to endorse electors to go to the polls. So anything of value, well, 8.8 million. Person includes body politic, which means it includes cities and city officials aiding and abetting. Induce elector to go to the polls. Well, that was the whole idea of the Wisconsin Safe Voting Plan, was to target neighborhoods in those 5 cities and get them to go to the polls. Now, there are 2 exceptions in Wisconsin election bribery statute that are relevant because it shows just how expansive election bribery law is in Wisconsin. One is election bribery in Wisconsin. If you're an employee, you give election day off to an employee, unless you let all the employees have the day off. 2 is election bribery in Wisconsin if you pay for someone else to go to the polls. If you're using your own car, it's okay. If you pay for an Uber or something, that's election bribery. 3, unauthorized influence of special interest groups in election administration. So I like the Wisconsin law that requires Wisconsin Election Commission to do an administrative manual for Wisconsin municipal clerks, but the direction of the legislature is to the Wisconsin Election Commission, include everything possible about elections in that 250-page manual. So we have a 250-page manual, and it doesn't mention any of the things with respect to special interest groups engaging in election administration. So if we're going to have a 250-page book saying how elections work in Wisconsin, you either include Zuckerberg, CEIR, CTCL, and all this stuff, and tell Wisconsin, this is how we run the elections in Milwaukee, Madison, Green Bay, Kenosha, Racine, or you stop all that activity, and then you keep the book you have. It's one or the other. And so I think that that's a really important issue, is that WEC has a municipal clerk book that they weren't following when they're giving advice to these entities with respect to using special interest groups. Then the WISVOTE security policies make special interest groups receiving government information unauthorized users making unauthorized uses. So the WISVOTE security has 4 levels, clerk's the top level, and there are all these emails where there's this sharing of data between the election officials in these 5 cities with the nonprofit groups. They're using for different get out to vote apps and so forth. And so those are not authorized by WEC security policies. WEC has a policy that they don't share that information except with the public, and it's for charge. In this case, the nonprofits weren't being charged a fee for receiving the data they did. CTCL, as part of the $8.8 million Wisconsin Safe Voting Plan, pushed its partners into Milwaukee, Madison, Green Bay, Racine, and Kenosha. I think Justice Gableman covered that pretty well. CTL's plan was to have cities participate in private get-out-the-vote plan to facilitate increased in-person and absentee voting. I think Mr. Gableman covered that well. 4, the Racine County Sheriff's Report, WEC violated special voting deputies law. I've already kind of covered that. The Racine County District Attorney concludes she did not have jurisdiction. The claims have been referred. We'll see if anyone follows up on that. But it's important that with respect to voter fraud, that once the special voting deputies didn't go out, administrators in these nursing homes were assisting people in voting, the absentee, they're handling the absentee ballot, and that's a problem too. In other words, this law should not have been suspended by WEC because it prevented other types of election fraud to occur. 5, the nursing homes. This is a big one. Wisconsin Voter Alliance and Ron Hoyer and I were working on this, and we found that there are 93 facilities. The nursing homes reviewed were in Brown, Dane, Milwaukee, Racine, and Kenosha County. The 93 facilities we looked at had 3,230 registered voters for the 2020 election. Of those 3,230, 3,189 voted. So across those facilities, 99%, but virtually, almost all of them at 100% voting rate. Now that's registered voters, but nothing's 100%. And I heard some concern about, maybe those videotapes were out of date and so forth. But why are these nursing homes voting 100%? Why do we have a 100% registered resident voting rate? And my concern is you put, if CTCL puts $36 a voter into Green Bay, well, of course, for $36 a voter, you're going to have 100% registered resident voting rates in the nursing homes. And so it's just like, are you kidding me? This is the 5th area of serial violation of the law by Wisconsin election officials.